Hey everyone, this is Chris from Chris Watches Pretty Little Liars. And what's really weird, I've done podcasts on and off for many years. And since I've done this show, I get random emails from people. It'll be like the subject line, Ken. And inside will be, hey Chris, I found these stats for your podcast called Chris Watches Pretty Little Liars. Click on the link here. Yeah, I don't know why there's this boon for stats like on listenership for shows, but anyway, what I find funny is that some of them get the title of the show wrong. They'll say, hey Chris, I want to give you insights on your podcast, Pretty Little Liars. I'm like, you're not even a listener. I won't even click on your scam link. But boy, folks, let's just dive into this because I want to do the recap as quickly as possible because then I need to tell you what really happened on this episode.
Chris watches Pretty Little Liars. Chris watches Pretty Little Liars. Chris watches Pretty Little Liars so he can help you figure out who's A.
All right, Season 2, Episode 15, Hot Piece of A. Hot Piece of A. So previously on, we see the dolls, which at the time I was like, why are we seeing this again? But obviously we'll find out. That's a big question I have. We'll get there. We see the police, arresting them. A little Janet Garrett reminder that they're going to, that they're behind this. Getting rid of Toby. Ezra is saying to Ari's parents, I love your daughter. Tom reminded Tom is coming back to Rosewood with his wife and daughter. We see the thing inside the garden house of Doom. This person running away, dropping the phone. And this episode starts right after. So basically, this person ran away and hits their side view mirror, remember? So we're picking up right back in the greenhouse, garden house there. Ari had to sneak out. Spencer's saying, oh yeah, Tony cornered me. And then, they're all freaking out, right? This all just happened literally seconds ago. And then Hannah just says, Kate's moving to Rosewood. Not now, Hannah. Not now. We're dealing with A. All throughout this episode, and now when I first watched this, I didn't get a lot of sleep, so I was a little loopy. But this is a very tense episode. Everyone's really mad. Emily is furious. They're like, we have A's phone, and they're like, we need to call Caleb, super phone person. He will know how to get in here. The phone's locked. And Hannah is against it. Let's go to a phone store. And she's like, do not involve Caleb, which I get. On one hand, I understand not involving him. On the other hand, he is the person who they can trust to help figure this out, right? But she was like, no, I don't want you to do it. Don't call him. Emily has glass in her hair. And then the phone starts ringing. Someone's calling the A phone. And then Emily's like, I'm just going to call Caleb. It was very tense. So then we cut to Caleb. I believe they're at Hannah's, right? So / Hannah Lee's, right? He's hacking into the phone. They're all like, hey, we're doing it. And Caleb knows something is up, right? He can see Hannah is really stressed out. Hannah's very angry. They want the info. So he's de-encrypting the phone, right? He's pulling files over. And then someone remote wipes the phone, which I thought was a clever detail to throw in there. I mean, this is Lucas. Let's just say it for the beginning. I don't think I could ever forgive Lucas for basically assaulting Emily. That said, well, we'll get there. But that's what happened. There is no one on this show except for Caleb who has any idea how to do that. There's nobody. This has to be Lucas, unless there's a character that they briefly mentioned. Boy, this Montgomery household is just an absolute disaster. Aria's going to go to school, and Byron comes out and says, you need to change your clothes. Now I know who you're dressing for. Aria's like, WTF? And then Mom's like, I'll handle this, Byron. Byron is at an 8 on the anger scale. So Ella puts Aria to room, and she's like, this is not the day to upset Dad. And then Aria brings up the dad affair. She's like, well, this isn't any different than blah, blah, blah. And then Ella's face is like, boom. And Aria's like, I'm sorry, Mom. Aria says, I thought ... And Ella, her mother, says, did you think I was going to bless the union of a teacher and a student? Did you really think that? And Ella says to Aria, there will be no goodbye to Ezra. This is it. You are completely cut off. And then Aria asks a weird question, which I misinterpreted the first time, and I think Ella does too. She says, do you like him? And Ella's like, what? I don't know if you remember, for a brief moment we thought, at least Byron did, that Ella might have had a crush on Ezra. But then it kind of hits Ella, so she asks again. Aria asks again, and Ella says, I did. Put in my notes, am I drunk? Is this a tense episode? Toby's doing what Toby does, messing with tools, and Spencer walks up and says, can we talk? Toby doesn't really say anything, but they go inside his pickup truck, and Spencer says something to Toby as well as to me in the audience. They're very close to answering questions, which the show is, but they can't quite do it yet. And then Toby's like, why are you here? She's like, well, I missed you. She says, so you're here to tell me you can't be here. Some smooching happens. Very weird scene, in my opinion. Cut to school, Caleb and Hannah. Caleb is decoding, I guess, on his laptop and for all everyone to see, but he's like, no, who the hell even knows what I'm doing? And then Caleb asks her, he's like, when do I get let into this secret club? They have kept everyone out so far. I think they let in Dr. Ann Sullivan. We saw what happened to her. I think, we've kind of let people in a little bit, and I think there is a fear, which I don't think is ridiculous, that people are in danger if they are allowed in. And then he says, don't you trust me? And then Lucas walks up, completely frazzled. And Hannah's like, hey, can you help me study after school? And Lucas is like, I'm helping A. Oh, yeah, sorry, yes, I can help. And then Caleb says, can we talk about the phone later? This whole Garrett stuff, I mean, Garrett undercover has been a weird character for me for a while. This is just, talk about Tennessee Williams. Let's keep rolling with that analogy. He pulls up to, I guess, his house, which is near Jenna's house. Toby and Spencer are still in the van smooching, truck. By the way, they kind of like sit up, so, Anyway, and he's clearly arguing with Jenna. He's on the phone like, hey, let's talk about it. I'm outside your house. He's banging on the door. And something about an eye operation in Boston. This is the infamous eye operation that Jenna's going to get to, I guess, regain her sight. And then he says something, Jenna wanted this person to help, but Garrett was against it, which makes sense. Spencer ducks down, and Toby, being Toby, sits proudly up in his seat, and Garrett is like, stomping around, and then he locks eyes with Toby. Just this stare of doom. Really wild. Cut to school, a little chalkboard check. Bringing it back, sure enough. On the chalkboard behind Ella, it says, the human condition. I wrote down some things from the board there. The human condition, violence, individuals frustrated with the world in which they must live. Which feels a lot like some of these lower level A people, right? I think Lucas is very frustrated with his situation in various ways. So, I don't know. I think that's an allusion to some of these A grunts. Emily's in the classroom trying to do a makeup test, and she's last to finish. She's actually doing a makeup test, so I think Emily's, struggling or what. But Ella's very nice and says, I'll let you retake it on Monday. We find out Emily's going to be doing some community service at a crisis hotline. So Emily's leaving, and Ella says to her, what else do I not know about my daughter? And then she's like, you know what, I shouldn't have asked you that, which is actually very responsible of Ella. And Emily does say to her, your daughter's the same person you knew. Nothing has changed. And then she kind of walks away. We cut to the quad area-ish. Aria's leaving a voicemail for Ezra using Hannah's phone, and she says, I love you so much. Oh, boy. This is not going to go away, is it? Cut to the hallway. Emily and Spencer. Spencer's like, hey, I want to snoop around Jason's house while he's gone. I guess she thinks that was Jason. I don't know. And Emily's like, I can't. And then I guess everyone else is busy. And then Emily lets it slip that Hannah and Caleb went to Spencer's lake house. Now, what's really weird, this is a minor line, but Hannah and Caleb knew about this lake house, right? So this is the Hastings lake house, I'm presuming. So Hannah and Caleb knew about it and did have access to it. So we need to figure out who all has access to this house, which we will get to. Cut to Hannah and Lucas after school. They're doing some studying. I'm assuming sounds like it's about the Civil War. I might be wrong. Lucas is clearly distracted because, of course, he's A, or actually, no, he's working with A. Spencer calls, and Lucas is like, is that Caleb? Lucas knows his time is short. He is nervous as hell. And then the idea is hatched here. Hannah's going to throw a surprise party for Caleb at the lake house. And then she says things to Lucas like, we're best friends. This big secluded party. She really needs his help. And Lucas is just a puddle of sweat. But basically, Caleb is going to have a birthday party at the lake house in this secluded lake house. Cut to Emily at her first day at the crisis hotline. And then she starts to do a transcript with the person that runs it. And it is basically someone who conveniently called last night saying, like, I almost got caught. I have to do this thing. And Emily realizes midway through this transcript, this is someone who called right after their incident at the garden greenhouse. This is the A helper. This is the person. And I put in my notes before I knew this. I put Lucas. This has to be Lucas. I don't know why this made me laugh, but Ezra was watching basketball in these little pathetic white socks. I don't know why that made me laugh. I wear socks around my apartment. I don't know why I laughed about that, but he looked like he was 2 in this image. Knock, knock, knock. Byron's at the door. Wow. Byron is not an imposing person. He is not scary to me in any way. At the door, I thought Byron might do something absolutely ridiculous and wild. I had no idea what he was going to do there. I don't know if even know he did. He's like, may I come in? And Esther's like, okay. And Byron starts really gently, and then he says, I know all about the delicate line between teacher and student, and I know that you were there for my daughter during a really weird year. That's really great. However, you should not have gotten in with a student, especially one that's a minor. And he's like, that doesn't make it okay. And Ezra starts to go, but you see, here's the thing. I got a job at Hollis, right? So it's fine. There's such an interesting distinction. And again, I know I've said this before. I don't know if the show doesn't care that Arya is a minor, because Ezra's like, see, I left Hollis. It's fine now. There's no issue. And then Byron looks around the apartment and he goes, was she here? Has Arya been here? And he looks at the bed. Oh my goodness. I'm like, oh boy, Byron, please do not have any weapons near you. This is, I can't handle this right now. Please don't do anything ridiculous. And Ezra's like, and Byron's like, you will never see Arya again. And he says, I'm going to make sure the police step in, and he storms out. Whew. Very tense episode, folks. Cut back to the school. We see Noel and Mona, clearly part of our head A group, if not co-head A's with a few other people. They want to come to Caleb's party. A, how do they know about that? Obviously, Lucas told them. And B, why does Hannah be like, wait a minute, how did you know about this? But Hannah's like, oh, I didn't think you want to go. And like, we'll be there. Of course, they're going to be there. And then Emily's like, hey, the person called in the hotline. Everyone needs to go work at the hotline with me. Ari's like, I can't. I'm on lockdown. I also can't go to the surprise party. And as they're chatting about who's going to do the community service, Caleb goes, hey, I have an update. He pulls them into a classroom, and he shows them a picture of the 4 dolls that we dealt with a few episodes ago. We don't know the context, really, of this photo. We just know that they got dolls in a box, right? And this is some sort of photo that was on the phone. It's worth noting that Spencer doesn't go, oh, hey, those are my Nana's dolls. Like, no one has that reaction, right? No one says, I recognize these dolls. Okay, everyone leaves, and Caleb's like, Hannah, what the hell is going on? Everyone's acting weird. Lucas is acting weird. Would someone please tell me what's going on? And Hannah's like, no, I can't. We found this phone, etc. So she won't tell him about A. Caleb clearly knows something is going on, but he does kind of let it go. Come back to the Montgomerys. Boy, this house is so tense. Byron and Ella are arguing. He's like, I'm going to the police. And Ella's like, do you really want to put your daughter through this? And he's like, I'm going to the police. And then Ella says, this is not funny. I should not laugh. But she's like, we got a son that's depressed, and we got another one that's dating a teacher. But, we are in a crisis here in this household. It's so tense. I think Byron backs down a little bit here as a result. Cut to Fitz's office over at Hollis, and Hannah comes over. She has a cake for the surprise party. She goes, hey, can I close the door? And he's like, leave it open, which kind of tells you his headspace. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm doing anything weird anymore. And she says if 2 people love each other, we think they should be together. Which I gotta tell you, folks, I don't know. I feel like that's what the show wants to push. I don't know. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. But Hannah's like, hey, I think you and Arya should be together. Okay. So Hannah's doing the party. Arya is in detention at home there. So it's Spencer joining Emily at the crisis hotline. So Spencer's now volunteering, and they're both sitting there really bored. A call rolls in to the person that runs it. And she starts talking to this person. She writes a little note and says, hey, it's the person that called last night to listen in to learn how to do this. And boom, they're like, oh my God, we have to listen. Right away, Lucas's voice. He's like, I have to do something about this. There's one solution. I really don't want to do it, et cetera, et cetera. And Spencer and Emily are like, it's Lucas. Lucas is the person that attacked Emily. Cut to Hannah. And she's like, no, it's not Lucas. And Spencer and Emily are getting very frustrated. They're like, Hannah, we heard him. It's Lucas. And she's like, no. She's in denial, basically. Hannah's like, that's no way it's Lucas. God, it was such a weird episode. Everyone is so mad at everybody this entire episode. Cut to Arya, the night of the party. Since she can't go, she just called Ezra like, hey, let's chat. And Ezra's like, don't call anymore. Folks, is it safe to say we're finally done with Ezra and Arya? Do we really think this is it? I don't think so. Another very weird scene at Jenna's. Garrett pulls up, and there's like someone leaving in a town car. We assume it's Jenna in there, off to Boston to get her surgery on her eyes, apparently. And Garrett does this, and Toby comes out of his house, and Garrett's like, I was supposed to go with her. Who is she going with? And Toby's like, I don't know. And he says, eventually Jenna turns on everybody, but Garrett's not giving up. Apparently Garrett told Jenna, which is interesting, right? If we are to believe what we're seeing with our eyes and ears, post-shovel, Garrett and Jenna are like, listen, we've done it, right? We did this whole trap. We got them in trouble. I get the feeling that Garrett was like, okay, we've done enough. We've put them through the ringer, right? We'll let creepy detective handle it from here. Because he said he was going to quit the force, right? I think there's one other thing they wanted to do, but I think he's done. Jenna clearly is not. And so that's kind of the crux of their argument. Toby basically says, well, she uses people, and then when she's done, she moves on to new friends. And Garrett's like, who are the new friends? And Toby says, I have no idea. And he says, you should walk away, Garrett. And Garrett says to Toby, the difference between you and me is I'm in love with Jenna. And he runs off. He runs away. Cut to the creepiest lake house ever. They're in the attic. No lights are on. Doorbell rings. Hannah's going to go get food. So Spencer is kind of like in this attic. No lights, creeping around. And for some reason, she finds a spot in the attic that matches the photo of the dolls. And the 4 dolls that were in this photo were the dolls that ended up going to them. I feel like this is a huge clue, and yet I have no idea how to process it. You know, my mind first went to Melissa, right? Because Melissa would have access to the lake house. But why would she move boxes back on this dresser? Like, where are these dolls come from? Why come all the way out here? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, Spencer hears creaking in the floor and turn around. Lucas, being creepy as hell, is like, I'm looking for tools in the attic. And Spencer freaks out, and she's like, I got to get out of here, and she runs away. Cut to downtown Rosewood. Byron, Ella, and Arya are going to dinner. This is not a funny episode by any means. This is probably one of the most serious episodes we've had of the show. Probably top 3 most serious episodes. This is the most unintentionally funny scene of this episode, if there is one. So they're going to go inside this restaurant. Ezra happens to be sitting right near the window. He's eating what looks like bread and lemon water. That looks like that's his dinner. And they all meet eyes. They're outside. He is inside, and he has his face like, yeah, boy. And Byron's like, we're going somewhere else. And Ella at first is like, Byron. And he's like, we're going somewhere else. And so he starts walking off. Ella's like, let's go, Arya. And then Arya and Ezra have this look like, I don't know. It was like, oh, this is sad, isn't it? But Ezra looks like, I don't know. Not that I think Ezra should stay home and eat by himself, but like, of all places to go out to eat food, I don't know. It just is, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, they leave. Cut back to the crisis hotline. Emily's, she basically returns the transcript. And then the phone rings. Like, so the person that runs this, she's on the phone, and the phone rings, and she points to Emily, like, hey, Emily, can you answer that? Emily runs over to grab the phone, and it's Lucas. Lucas is like, I need to talk to somebody. And were you the person I talked to before? And Emily lies and says, yes. And then this person, Lucas, says, I've made a decision. Basically, I'm going to do it tonight. Now, when I first watched this episode, I thought he was going to tell Hannah that he still had feelings for her. Boy, how wrong I was. The show is trying to make you think that he's going to do some act of violence on Hannah, right? That's the misdirect here. And basically, he says he's going to do something tonight. So Emily's like, I gotta get over there. Back to the Montgomerys wandering around downtown, and they run into some guy named, I think his name is Ron. Like, hey, Byron. And then we get new character alert, Holden. Holden with his Josh Groban hair here. Holden walks up. Cue my Holden song. There's a lot of like, ooh, Arya and Holden. I don't see Arya at all into Holden. I don't even think Holden's really into. You know what this scene reminded me of? So much. When we first meet Jesse on Gilmore Girls, he's very much like this. He's not as edgy as Jesse was on Gilmore Girls. By the way, you need to watch Gilmore Girls, and I should probably do a podcast about that, even though that's been done. Sidebar. Yeah, he was very much like, well, yeah, Arya trained herself on the bikes. I just kind of broke her training wheels. I don't know. They're basically, I don't know. I don't know. Are we going to see more of Holden? It sounds like it. I don't know. I don't think I'm not digging Holden here matched with Arya, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Cut to the party. Noel and Mona look. I know I mentioned Scream a few episodes ago. This looks like literally out of Scream. The two culprits, the masterminds behind it all, smiling there. And Noel's like, I'm going to go hang up the banner. So he runs off. Emily runs in, right? And she runs in and she's like, Spencer's like, I need your help. I need you. Spencer's obsessed with the attic. She's like, I need everyone to look in the attic for where the dolls are. Emily's like, BRB. She runs into the kitchen and she finds Lucas. And Lucas looks like he's been in a sauna. He is sweating. And Emily tries to talk to him like, you know, Hannah will forgive friends, et cetera, et cetera. And then Emily says, don't do something you're going to regret. And Lucas kind of turns around like, boop. Like I think he's figured it out. And then Emily does tell Spencer, like, I think I just made things worse with Lucas. Mona's walking by and they say, hey, where's Hannah? Lucas and Hannah are going to set up some fireworks. So they're taking this little rowboat out to, I guess, like a little island or something to set up for fireworks. And they see them headed out. They're freaking out. We have this long freaking out thing. Lucas acting tense, people shouting for Hannah. It's getting really tense. It's really dark. Lucas gets a little frustrated, and at the very end, he's like, "This is not about fireworks." Hannah freaks out, knocks him into the water, I guess by accident. He goes overboard. Everyone's yelling. Lucas, we don't know where he is. Hannah starts rowing back, and then someone reaches up out of the water and pulls flips the boat over. Hannah frantically swims back to shore. Emily's calling the police. We cut to Arya leaving Ezra a voicemail saying, I think Dad's pretty steadfast, but Mom's turning around. Mom comes in and says to Arya, hey, you should meet up with what's his name? Holden. So it sounds like Arya's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll meet up with Holden. Cut back to the lake. We see Hannah swimming back to the shore. We don't see Lucas. Noel and Mona walk by, absolutely soaking wet. And they're like, hey, we took a dip. And then Caleb shows up and Hannah says, surprise. Then the final scene we see is someone, a vigilante, someone in gloves, taking back one of Lucas's Converse sneakers. So that's what happened. What the audience was led to believe, or at least the show's attempt to believe, is that Lucas was going to do something to Hannah, right? He was discovered, and this was his attempt to cover his tracks. So I watched this the first time, and I was like, why would Lucas hurt Hannah? Like, that doesn't fit anything that's gone on. And then my original theory is that he was going to reveal his feelings for Hannah also doesn't make sense. And then when I watched it tonight to kind of refresh my memory before I recorded. It hit me. If you Pretty Little Liars watcher, if this is the first time watching this episode, go back and watch this and put in your head this thought. Lucas is done. Lucas decides after the incident in the greenhouse where he fights with Emily, he loses the phone, he makes a choice. He is going to tell Hannah all about A. He is going to take her out to this little pier and he's going to tell her, I sent you some of those A messages. I know who did it. I realize you may not forgive me, which is all the stuff he's talking about. You know, she's never going to look at me the same way again and all that other kind of stuff. Because he's going to tell her the truth. And all his weird faces, all that stuff. Because I was like, why would he bring Kayla back and then like be working for A again? And then it hit me. He was calling the hotline. They've probably tapped his phone. So Noel and Mona heard about what was going to happen, and so they made sure to invite themselves to the party. Noel does go he says, I'm going to go pick up the banner. So he leaves frame, so he gets ready to go into the water. I don't know who convinced whom to go into this little raft, but clearly Mona and Noel's like, this is a way to make sure if Lucas tries this, we can intercept it. We do see point of view camera at one point while they're in the lake. And I was like, oh, I see. That's Noel Khan in the lake. So he's in the lake watching and listening, etc., etc. He might even have scuba gear. I don't know. So once Lucas goes overboard, Noel grabs him. He grabs him and he starts pulling him ashore. He might have even been, just to be a jerk, made the boat go overboard too. And basically what happened, so here's one of two scenarios. So they rescue Lucas, and Noel and Mona say, Lucas, we know what you're going to do. We know you are about to reveal our little network here. We just saved your life. And B, we very easily could take it. So we're going to forgive you for this one moment. You're going to make up some excuse as to what you're going to really tell Hannah. Say you're going to reveal your crush or whatever it is. You're in deeper now. And we know you almost gave us up. So that is what happened. The one part I don't get yet is the dolls in the attic. I guess it makes sense that Lucas might have been the one that did the doll stuff too. But we also know Jenna and Garrett are taking credit for that. So kind of like that Halloween flashback episode, I guess they're more connected than maybe I thought. Remember how I've been saying that it's kind of an anonymous network where maybe not everybody knows exactly what everyone is doing? I think I might have to change that because I think Jenna, Garrett, Mona, and Noel, and Lucas are at least somewhat aware of who is in charge in these operations. It's a little more coordinated than maybe I gave it credit for. I'm not sure if Creepy Detective is involved, although he might be. Ian and Melissa link up because Melissa would have access to the lake house, so that makes sense to me. Meredith might be involved, as I've said before, and Kate is going to be the new recruit for the A Network. So yeah, so I would really like it if Lucas does end up revealing this before the season's end, because he was going to on this episode. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Magoogs. I realize I don't tweet and post that much, but that's where I am. Occasionally twitching at Mac to the Gal. We're gonna keep moving along here, and I think I've said so much.